Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everybody. Lots to talk about today. This podcast is going to go in a bunch of different directions. First, we're going to talk about healing using shamanic, I guess, practices. We'll call it that. Energy healing, if you will. But we're also going to, and that's humans, by the way. And then we're going to pivot over to animals and how we support them and how they support us. It's going to be pretty just eye-opening. That's why I just started talking with these two ladies before we jumped in here, and I'm like, I can't wait to talk. That's where I'm going. Danielle Marie White is a spiritual life coach, shamanic, and Reiki practitioner. She's also a registered nurse, and joining us today is somebody that has worked with her. Tell us who that is.
This is Dr. Mary Beth Nunes.
Gotcha. Welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Doing great. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, same. Your energy, both of you, is like off the scale. It feels good.
We have been sisters before, and we call ourselves a soul sisters. So we have a very deep connection and bond. So.
Nice. And you had a shamanic healing session with Danielle. I did the same thing a couple of weeks ago. Yours was, what, Mary Beth, was it last year? I'm trying to remember.
It was last year. We actually connected last year as well, and we both share a lot of similar beliefs. And like I said, we're soul sisters for getting a little woo here for many lives. And we decided to go for a healing session. I've been very interested in the shamanic path, both of what I work. Very connected with animals. And the shamanic path really has talked to me. And so I was so excited that Danielle offered to do a shamanic healing. Sitting here today and what I went through last year, I may not have been so excited because a lot of things have changed. But it really set me more directly on my path. So
I want to hear it from you. How would you describe shamanic healing versus, let's say, a Reiki session or chakra balancing?
Sure, I'd be happy to, because I am also a Reiki practitioner. I am trained, I don't use the word master, but I am trained in all three levels, both in a human lineage and then with a focused animal lineage, which is very, very important to me, which we may kind of go into later because it is a little bit different. But Reiki involves you being the vessel and kind of creating the space, so to speak. And you're kind of letting the universe and just the energy kind of flow as it needs to. And shamanic healing is a lot more, dare I say, intentional? Is that a good word for it? It's more active versus passive. Okay. One of the big beliefs that I rely on with Reiki is you're kind of in a state of being. It's kind of like a tree. You're learning how to really grow your roots down so that whenever you go into, I've been in many shelters, I've been in many wild animal preserves and wild animal healing centers, and you're able to kind of take the human eye out of it and kind of grow your roots. And so that even though, like a tree, in a bad storm, that tree is going to blow, the roots are still there. And so that's kind of what Reiki teaches you, how to still hold the space in very many different types of scenarios, whether it be for one dog that I worked with who came from a pretty abusive situation. So you're not bringing that human, oh, poor baby, all of that stuff. You're really bringing in and allowing that spirit to be who it needs to be and who it wants to be, and let that spirit shine. And so that's why I look at Reiki. With shamanic healing, like I said, it is, you are still coming from that space, but you're also working more directly with spirit and more directly with the guides and doing a little bit more. How would you put it? Help me out here.
I would put it as co-creative.
Co-creative, that's perfect.
So would you say that when somebody is getting a Reiki session, the practitioner is just throwing the energy out there, the individual is receiving it, and it goes where it needs to go, and things are good? Shamanic, like we say, more intentional. It's almost like, I'm lasering in on what I need to get done as the practitioner. You're looking for a story, and then how do we support that story, somebody's life? So like you said, passive. Nothing wrong with Reiki. It's great.
No, not at all. I mean, for myself, Reiki really, I mean, here could be another tangent that we go on, but I'll keep us on tangent. Or no, I will help you not go too much on tangent. But Reiki, it is passive, but it's more of an allowance. The other thing, I mean, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a holistic physical therapist, and I can bring Reiki into my work, and still do physical therapy, do manual therapy, do things like that. Just like craniosacral, if you've ever heard of craniosacral therapy, it kind of uses along similar lines. I look at them as tools, but also ways to center yourself, so that you're able to be of best service, whether it's a human, whether it's an animal, whatever being you're working with.
So I'm intrigued with your background, which it goes from here to there. I mean, the physical
It does.
part.
I'm in everything bagel.
Yeah, you really are. And I have that at home. It's in my cabinet, and I put the everything bagel stuff on everything, not even just bagels. It's great. A little too much sodium, but that's worth it. When we look at your background, I'm intrigued how you went for a shamanic session with Danielle. What prompted you to do that?
Well, I can be kind of used it's a little woo, but I really believe my guides did that because not only did I connect with Danielle, I've always had a fascination and a draw to shamanic life and to the shamanic way of being. Especially one of the things I absolutely admire very much from the Native Americans and kind of along this life path is that we're being one with other beings, not the hierarchy that humans see themselves with animals and plants and trees and things like that. And so that's kind of what really brought me into Reiki. I'm sorry, with shaman. My tongue is getting tight. Shamanic. Say the word for me. Shamanic. Thank you. That's what happens when your mind is going a little bit faster than your mouth. Sure. But and I really think it was my guides because I've been on a bit of a path. Like many of us, I had a very challenging childhood, which I know I brought that into this life for a purpose. But it was also standing in my way in a lot of things. I've kind of started doing a lot of my work, but to truly be of service, I needed to kind of clear up some things. And that's what I'm really learning this year. And Danielle was such an amazing vessel and such a gift because she really brought a lot of that out. And I think that's what brought me to having that shamanic healing is that during that session, one of the things that came up was binding. Was that the word that we used? Mm-hmm. Was that I was bound. We hear that a lot with witchcraft, but I think that goes beyond just witchcraft. I think a lot of times out of fear, out of past life, out of childhood trauma, different things, we kind of close ourselves off, not only to our true purpose, but really what we can, our true power, who we can be. And I think I may have bound myself, whether as a child, whether as a previous life, and Danielle really found that and was able to really kind of help me to remove that binding.
It's my experience working with Danielle, and I want your feedback on this, Mary Beth. It's almost as if she's psychic, but she's not because she finds these things out and she'll say something and she said something to me and I'm like, I don't know if that's really true. She goes, no, I'm seeing this. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, oh yeah, that is correct.
Yep. And that does happen. That does happen with healing. We both have had that, and Danielle has that at definitely an amazing level. But things will come to you. And I also want to make, especially if there's Reiki practitioners out there who will say, yeah, we can do that too. And yes, we do. We will get information during Reiki sessions as well. I'm also an animal communicator. And
we're going to get to that.
I bring that up because that's also kind of like you get it, and it's being open, let's say that, because I don't put that in a box saying animal communication, psychic or, getting information when you're healing. A lot of that stuff comes through and it's honoring what the universe is telling you, honoring what that person's higher self and what that person is telling you. But definitely what I love working with Danielle and just, the closer we've gotten is she's been able to validate a lot of things. And that's so exciting because for example, I know I had a past life in the 20s. I love the 20s. It's my favorite thing in the world. And here's another little everything bagel. I collect Barbies, and we had a Barbie convention, and where we got to dress up in the 20s and things like that. Well, long story short, during one of our sessions, she actually saw a mask. She's like, wait a minute, I remember seeing, it's almost like what they used to wear in the 20s. And I was like, yes, I'm not making that up. I'm not crazy.
Wow. We're going to go in so many different directions here. So
I warned you I was an everything bagel.
It's all good. I want to turn the car toward past life. Why do you feel that you're connected to the 20s? Do you think you might have had a life back then at that time?
I definitely think so. Now this might be going to, different thought processes and different beliefs on this, but I've just always felt a connection with that. Just like Danielle and I've, noticed that we've had a connection to that and beyond. But there's just something that happens, like when I was dressing up, like in a little bit of the flapper stuff, it sparks something different.
I get you. And honestly, the reason I asked that was I have an affinity for the 1800s, right around 1850, where they had photography, so you can actually see, what was going on there. It had a little bit of technology, but it was a much simpler way of life. And I could stare at photographs all day long of people from, the 1850s, 60s, 70s, right around there. And I love the clothing. I just like, how did they do that? Like that, the detail. They didn't have machines or anything like that. And then somebody did a trace my roots back. And I'm not close on my father's side, but they were able to do it. Long story short, they found out that my father's father was from Lithuania, and he was a tailor and worked his butt off and made his way to New York City, where he got a place for his family. And this person even tracked down the street that he lived on. My point here is I had this whole affinity for the fashion and how they did everything. And he was a tailor. So it's apparently in my lineage. Maybe I was there. I don't know, but that just backed up. So that's why I asked that, about the 20s. I believe that if you really feel it, there's a pretty good chance you were there, in another life. I really do. Let's talk about the animal side of things. Okay, so as an animal communicator, I take that as, and I've talked to other animal communicators before, where you can absorb or pick up what they're sending, and then the other way around, send them messages. Is that kind of it?
I like using the word as translator. You go to a different country, they speak a different language.
Sure.
You either pull out your book or you pull out a translator. And that's what I do. That's kind of the easiest way to explain it. Just moving one step beyond is I will feel things, which really helps me with my physical therapy. Or if I'm doing just a straight animal communication, I will feel things or sense things or just kind of hear them, so to speak. Not like if they're talking like how we are talking, but just kind of sense the information. So, I use
give me some examples. An example of that, maybe something you communicated for someone else and then it was validated, maybe something like that.
Sure. Well, for one example, a horse that I worked with for a while, she was so, I loved this horse. I actually helped her caregiver kind of from when she first got her all the way into kind of during her transition, the horse's transition. But she would talk about, like during our first session, I was like, her name was Betty. It's like, why do I keep seeing Betty Boop playing? And she's like, oh, that's her nickname. We call her Betty Boop. The biggest thing I can kind of describe that might, make sense is people will ask to do kind of a body scan, and I will feel things, whether musculoskeletal, I was going through one class. We were connecting with each other's animals, and I was connecting with a cat. My thumb was driving me crazy. I was like, okay, I cannot move on from this. My thumb is just, what is going on with her dew claw? And then, of course, there was, she was having some I think she actually pulled the dew claw, or there was some issue with the dew claw. So, yeah.
Whoa, wow. So I had a situation, and just to illustrate how this all works, my cat started peeing outside the litter box. Hey, what's going on with that? So somebody told me who communicates, just ask for a reason. Vibe them. I'm not kidding you. I got something flashed in my head, and they were telling me that they didn't like the liner that I started using.
I mean, cats are picky.
And it wasn't like I just deduced that. It was after I was intentional, sending a message,
Yes.
thinking
Yes.
it, you can't do that. Daddy's not
Yes.
happy. What's going on here? Tell me why. And within a couple of hours, it just like hit me like a sledgehammer. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
So I changed the bags back to other bags. Been fine ever since. I would have never known that.
Well, and that's what people don't understand. And I had a friend of mine, we did a couple of videos about, and I'm going to get back to that. Whereas you can do that with your animals every day.
Right.
I will admit that, and I've many communicators that I've talked with, there is a bias, so it's a little bit more difficult to communicate with your own animals. I have dogs and horses myself, and the bias kind of comes in. So,
Wow.
we'll use each other because you're able to be a little bit more neutral. But yeah, anybody can communicate with your animal.
I know we're going to digress for a second, and then I want to get to the cat that's with you guys today.
Yes.
But what for all of us, if you want to send a message or maybe receive a message from your pet, what do you do? What should you be doing in your mind?
Well, you hit the nail on the head is really just get, kind of find that space of neutrality, kind of find that, that space and be intentional, because they're ready, willing, and able, and they want to. They communicate with you either through peeing outside the
Litter box?
cat box, the litter box. It got to that point. I guarantee she was telling you or giving you some information even before that. But for our human brain, we need that more visual or that more smack in the head, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it's almost like I didn't turn into the right station at that time.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's just giving yourself that moment of being like, kind of finding that space. And it kind of goes back to a little bit on Reiki, but we'll just use the word meditation, kind of finding that space. And then you can go one step beyond by inviting your animal in and then just being, whether it's out loud, whether it's nonverbal, just being, what's one question, asking a question and seeing what comes up. As humans, it's a little bit more fun to see that visual feedback, for example, like, what toy do you want? Or, little things like that. Or can you go get something, having that visual. But if you're able to be in that intention space, like you said, how that information came through, it's really powerful that way.
And
too.
thank you for saying that they want to communicate because it's so reasonable. What else do they have going on? All they're doing is sending signals and receiving signals, eating, pooping, sleeping, and cuddling. That's their life. That's it. And who better grounded than your pets?
1,000%.
They're touching the floor and the ground all the time. Yeah.
Yes, well, quite literally, and then also figuratively grounded. Because the other thing, and I hope doesn't take us too much of a tangent, but the other thing that's very, very meaningful to me, and I'm very passionate about, just from many different readings I've seen, done with other people, but our animals are often our mirrors, and they will and actually, this is a perfect segue for the cat because they will take on things. There's been whether it's anxiety. Different things like that, they will start to take that on just to try to help heal you and to try to help you on your path. I'm a very firm believer that every person finds the animal that they're meant to be with. And just to help each other on the journey. The other word I'd like to use sometimes in my title, if you will, is a relationship kind of coach, because rather than animal communicator, because we are truly walking this journey with our animal and they are here to help us.
Yeah.
And so that kind of brings us to our transition to the cat.
Yeah. Who do we have?
This is Luna.
Hi, baby girl.
Say hi.
You want to say hi?
She's like, no.
Yeah, this is Danielle's cat. And during one of the sessions, I started shaking, just like kind of trembling and shaking. And I did not know what that meant. I thought, I didn't know if I was cold or what. But Danielle explained that it was a curse that I had been put on myself or family or both.
I would have to review your notes. I don't retain the information.
Anyways, it was a curse and it needed to come out. And I started getting very nauseous. As most of us, I hate vomiting. And, but I started dry heaving and I just could not stop dry heaving, but nothing was physically coming out. I was like, okay, Danielle, this is embarrassing, A, and B, this is super uncomfortable. And as I was like, all right, she's like, no, let it out. You have to let it out. You have to let it out. And as we were talking about that, little Miss Luna kind of was right next to the bed and she vomited. And I actually felt better right after that.
So, wow. Did she take?
Oh, it's still wow. I mean, a year later, we're like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. So
Did she take on what you were dealing with?
I really think so, because the change right afterwards was just amazing. And to have it be right at that section, that
right.
point. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, I'm sure the skeptics will be like, well, cats puke, but it wasn't like a hairball. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was physical vomit. And cats are transmuters. People don't realize how much energy they transmute. So they move energy. And when they're kneading on you and loving on you, you'll notice they go to certain places on your body.
Yes.
And if you're in tune and you know that there's a sore spot, pay attention. Your cat's probably going to come up and work on you in those areas or lay on you and purr, because that vibration readjusts ours and helps to break things out.
Well, isn't it like similar to when people say, I had a bad day, I came home, my cat came right up to me and was cuddling. They know.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and another perfect example. Well, two examples. One, they actually have dogs that smell out diseases now. That can and how many therapy dogs who will sense when a seizure is coming or sense when something's off. Diabetics. There's a reason for that. They are so in tune to that. The other big example that I can think of, which I'm very passionate about, are horses. Try going up to a horse and having a bad day and like trying to put a smile on your face. Oh, that horse is going to know.
Yes.
And that horse will sense. And there's also a reason why horses are therapeutic, creatures, whether you're veterans or kids with special needs. There's a reason why you'll see an autistic kid kind of open up and just bring their parents to tears from working with them.
Yeah.
I mean, we have those tools if we allow them. And, you don't have to go to a special therapy center. I mean, they're amazing, but your cat at home has that same and is offering you that same level of healing and love if you allow it.
We don't see it. We're not looking at it. And I know for a fact, the cat I had that I had to put down in 2019, rescued him from a cage, was there for a year, wonderful, mushy. I'm convinced that the cat I have now, who is also an orange tabby, is him.
Ginger. Yep. Very, very likely.
He's back.
They come back. I've had several readings. I've even experienced, and I might get a little teary-eyed on this one, because I just lost my little girl, in July, and I'm still kind of heartbroken over her, but they come back. She was my cat growing up, and very many times I felt it. And now I'm not going to cry, but they come back. Like I said, I just lost my heart. She was my cat growing up, and then she was my dog in this, because she knew we weren't ready. We have dogs, and but that's happened many times. I've been in many readings where either the animal will tell you they're coming back, or they'll be like, oh, I did a reading. Oh, did you have a little horse? It was actually one person who had a little mini white horse, and we were talking. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's who came back to you in this life, and in this horse.
Yep.
Or even during the same time. And if I may, I'll share a quick, going back to your question about examples or validators. We have another friend of ours whose dog, oh my God, this dog is amazing. But he kept saying white to me. I kept hearing the word white. And I was like, okay, why am I hearing white? I mean, we were just hanging around. We did, soul, sister circles and things like that. And he would always come up and say white. And she was bringing up to, we were just happening to talk. And she said, yeah, I think this dog was my friend in a previous life who always, not previous life, in this life, I'm sorry, who said that he was going to come back as one of my dogs. I was like, okay. I said, was his name White? And she said, yeah, his name was John White. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, because he kept saying White to me, and I was trying to figure out what White was. And she said, yeah, that was his last name. So sometimes people come back. That doesn't happen too often. I've felt people come back. But yeah, animals will come back to us.
I'm not going to doubt it, although I haven't experienced it and I haven't got my head around that yet. But yeah, certainly animals, they come back. And I'm convinced I'm dealing with the same cat or a part of that cat, because I feel that I saved his life and gave him a good life, and then needed a cat for healing purposes. I moved, and he did times a million, just by showing up. It's
that.
like, I can't, he's almost too mushy. Like I can't even just sit there. He comes up on my face like, he's mush. But
You must need it, Steve.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a weird thing. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. But remember, during the pandemic, it's no coincidence that so many more people had so many people adopted more animals and dogs during the pandemic. You know, that spiked. So
never thought of that. Wow.
Yep.
We're just about out of time. Thank you for today and sharing all of this. Just an eye opener. We went in a lot of different directions in a short amount of time, but it just validates what's going on out there in terms of energy, animals, healing us, shamanic. I mean, I never had a session like that until I met Danielle, and now I understand what this. And sadly, the word shamanic sounds evil. I feel that some people say, I don't know about that, but no, it's all about the healing. Best way, Danielle, if somebody wants to reach you, hellofuturehealing.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I don't know, Mary Beth, do you do animal communication for people? Like if they want to reach out?
I do animal communication. I'm getting ready to open up my physical clinic where I'm combining physical therapy with other modalities of healing. And I'm getting ready to have my own podcast come out, really exploring and deepening and revolutionizing the way we work with our animals. But that's not coming out just yet. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm magicallyalign.com and my physical therapy. So if you're in the Virginia area and your dog needs some therapy or your horse needs some physical therapy, feel free to look me up.
Super cool. The best part about all of this is the majority of it, because it's energy, can be done virtually.
Oh, yes. I've done many virtual,
Same thing with animal communication. And you
not
don't
physical therapy.
Yeah,
Yes.
not physical therapy, right. Well, the word physical. You don't have to have the animal with you. That's the amazing part. Some people think that, I got to bring my, put my dog up in front of the screen and have a picture will suffice.
Exactly.
Both of you, Danielle, Mary Beth, thank you for being here today and being so transparent. I feel that's how we learn, from other stories. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Have
your time.
a wonderful day.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.